Hey everyone, I'm Ermysenigma. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Legends. Also, welcome to another make your own pack video. In this video, I'm basically going to go through all the monsters available in this make your own pack event, and I'm going to be talking about their pros and cons, and then ultimately with the advice I gave you in this video, you can decide for yourself if you want to create your own pack or just buy an individual monster. So with that being said, let's start off with epics, then we'll move on to water monsters, then fire monsters. So the first available monster we have is Cthulhu, and one great thing about Cthulhu is that he is an epic monster with immunity to stun, which means if you ever find yourself in a team wars where the enemy legendary monsters can stun you, say it's like a General Tomb that has an AoE stun, you'd be able to utilize someone like Cthulhu because he's not going to be immobilized, then you'd be able to use a churn in. And as far as skills go, he does have some pretty amazing skills like Cthulhu Seeds. This gives damage reduction and blind to all enemies. So the enemy's damage is going to be reduced by 25% and they're also going to be blind. So that's pretty amazing. We also have this skill right here that heals 35% of his life. He gets life regeneration and energy regeneration. So if you make this monster kind of tanky, it could be kind of hard to kill him. So if you desperately want to create a pack of 3 monsters, I'd have to say Cthulhu is probably one of your best options. And another great thing about Cthulhu is that he can actually be used to breed Nabotis. Nabotis is one of the few breedable legendary monsters, and you do actually need Cthulhu to breed Nabotis. And Cthulhu himself isn't breedable or anything, so if you do want to create a pack of 3 monsters, I would recommend Cthulhu. Purchasing him for 149 gems, however, I do not recommend that. Anyways, next up is Eberwin. Now probably the most amazing thing about this epic monster would be its speed of 2940. That is pretty darn fast for an epic monster. His trait is immune to blind, which can definitely come in handy, however it'd be way better to have an immunity to some sort of deny skill like possession, stun, or freeze. Now as far as skills are concerned, I don't think there's anything too particularly interesting. Magnetic feathers, in the team wars involving metal monsters, if you were to run this monster and you were to make it faster than your attacker, and your attacker was a metal monster that has an AoE metal based attack, you could utilize that combo. However, for that there's other epic monsters to use, and you also do have a skill called Horse Soul, which removes all debuffs from your team, so that can come in handy if your team has some sort of DOT, or if your team is all blinded or dazed. And you also come with a single blind. And not to mention, the design of this monster is also pretty amazing, but other than that, I really can't recommend this monster for the create your own pack event. And the next epic monster on the lineup is Seraphim. Now personally, I like this monster a lot. It has a pretty high power for an epic monster, life isn't anything too amazing, and the speed is pretty good for an epic attacker. However, once again, the trait is immune to blind. It's way better to have a trait that gives you some sort of immunity to some sort of deny skill. But anyways, one of the many reasons I like this monster is because it comes with 2 lifesteal skills. It has a skill that deals 40 damage and another skill that deals 50 damage, and they both lifesteal 50%. On top of that, Seraphim comes with a skill that gives it a shield. And as a nice little bonus, it does come with a single blind skill. So thanks primarily to the lifesteal and the shield skills, Seraphim can be quite a good monster to put on your team because it could be kind of hard to kill this monster, which will help you get 3 coins in team wars. So if you're planning to make your own pack of 3 monsters, I would also recommend Seraphim. However, I think I'd have to recommend Cthulhu more. And the last available epic monster is Zomdov. And I honestly have nothing good to say about this monster, so we're gonna just be skipping him entirely. So as far as epic monsters are concerned, my number 1 recommendation is Cthulhu. I don't however recommend buying them for 149 gems, I'd rather you just purchase them in a combo pack. So now we move over to water monsters, and the first monster is Frostbite. It goes without saying, you should definitely get this monster. He is by far one of the most amazing monsters in the whole entire game, especially if you have better speedruns than your opponent, because this monster can 100% stamina drain at the same time that he AoE freezes. This monster also comes with another 100% stamina drain that also recovers his own energy by 40%. He has another AoE freeze. He can give your whole team double damage and recover their stamina by 50%, and surprisingly enough for a deny monster, he also comes with a pretty high power. Now there are 2 main downfalls to Frostbite, the first of which is his speed, 3421, that is not a really good speed for water monsters. There are plenty of water deny monsters that are a lot faster than him, and the second not so good thing about him is his trait Energize. And the reason that isn't good is because, like I mentioned, his speed isn't necessarily the best, which means there are plenty of water monsters that can deny him. So on an equal playing field, Frostbite isn't that amazing. However, if you have better speedruns than your opponent, and if we're honest with ourselves, most of the times we'll only attack people when we're faster than them, Frostbite is a really good option. And next up is the Prisoner. Now the Prisoner isn't a water monster that gets brought up a lot, primarily because his speed of 2816 combined with his trait also Energized, this doesn't really make him a popular water monster because he can easily be denied. Now the one thing the Prisoner does have is a life of 31,667. This is a really tanky life. And as far as his skills are concerned, he does have Inner Trough, which gives a shield to all of your allies, and Blue Collar, which gives life regeneration to all of your allies. So Inner Trough and Blue Collar can definitely help your team survive in multiple situations, not to mention he also comes with a single stun skill. Overall though, his speed of 2,816, this is a speed that prevents him from being a usable water monster in team wars. So I cannot recommend that you purchase the Prisoner. And after the Prisoner, we have Cabin Fish. Oh my gosh, another fantastic monster. Frostbite and Cabin Fish, these 2 monsters are definitely worth purchasing, and I'd actually have to say Cabin Fish is worth purchasing more than Frostbite. And I say that for multiple reasons, the first of which is his speed. 3,454, Cabin Fish is inherently faster than Frostbite. Also, Cabin Fish has a trait immune to freeze, so this helps him not be denied by multiple water monsters. On top of that, Cabin Fish does have a skill that's a 50% chance of stunning all enemy targets, and it has no cooldown. Yeah, it's only 50%, but it also has no cooldown, so you can spam this skill. In skills group 2, he has a skill called Bullet Rain, which is just a standard AoE stun skill. Now, AoE stun for water monsters is absolutely amazing because not that many water monsters are immune to stun. Most water monsters are immune to freeze, as you've seen before. And once again, Cabin Fish has a pretty good speed of 3,454. And to top things off, he also has Round Rain, which is an AoE freeze skill. So this monster comes with an AoE stun, an AoE freeze, and an AoE 50% chance to stun that's spammable. And if you're still not convinced that Cabin Fish is worth purchasing, he does come with Corsair Offensive, which basically removes 50% of stamina from the target. You may be thinking, well, that's not a big deal. It actually is a big deal because General Thetis is a common monster you'll see on defense, and the worst thing that General Thetis can do to you is drain all of your monster's stamina by 100%, so Cabin Fish can actually prevent General Thetis from doing that thanks to this skill right here. If Cabin Fish drains 50% of stamina from General Thetis, she won't be able to do her Stamina Devour skill. And on an equal playing field, whether we want to compare level 100 Cabin Fish to level 100 General Thetis, or level 130 Cabin Fish to level 130 Thetis that all have level 10 speedruns, Cabin Fish will always go before General Thetis. So Cabin Fish is a monster I highly recommend purchasing him, and I actually recommend you purchase Cabin Fish over Frostbite, especially because Social Point has recently started to release a lot of non-water based monsters that are immune to freeze, which means that we're eventually going to reach the point in Team Wars where there's going to be monsters that are all immune to freeze. There's plenty of epic monsters immune to freeze, there's a few rare monsters immune to freeze. So in Team Wars, if the enemy water monster is immune to freeze, if the rarity is immune to freeze, and the other non-water element is immune to freeze, then AoE freeze really won't be that powerful. But Cabin Fish having AoE stun, that's going to make him incredibly usable. So definitely do yourself a favor and pick up Cabin Fish. And the final monster available to purchase for 249 gems is Varna. Now for a long time, Varna has been a favorite of many. The thing about Varna is his speed of 3,399. This makes him kind of outclassed compared to other water monsters. He also has a trait immune to stun, which is a really good trait to have. However, in terms of water monsters, many of them tend to have freeze skills, so Varna would easily get denied by another water monster. Now as far as skills are concerned, he does come with an AoE freeze himself. He also comes with a single stun skill, although it does have a high fortune cooldown. He can give all of the enemy monsters stamina leak while at the same time giving himself stamina regeneration, and he can also heal his life by 30%. Again, it does have a pretty high cooldown of 3 turns, but still, he's a pretty self-sustaining monster. And once again, because of his trait and speed, he's kind of outclassed by other water monsters that can easily deny Varna over and over again, especially if they have multiple free skills, but in certain situations, Varna can definitely be a good monster. So please don't get me wrong, Varna is a good monster, but compared to monsters like Frostbite and Cabin Fish, I'd have to say those two monsters are worth getting over Varna. So for water monsters, there's 2 potential water monsters you can get. Frostbite and Cabin Fish are the 2 monsters I recommend, and you honestly can't really go wrong with either of them. And I'm gonna urge more experienced players to get Cabin Fish because of his trait and his faster base speed. But if you're just starting off the game, if you don't have a water monster yet, or if it's gonna be one of your first few water monsters, get Frostbite because this monster will help you out in player versus player, he'll help you out in survival dungeons, and of course in Team Wars, if you're faster than the enemy monster, Frostbite is another great monster to have. And honestly, instead of purchasing 3 monsters for 519 gems, you might want to think about just purchasing a Frostbite and a Cabin Fish. But anyways, moving on to fire monsters, we have Commander Alvin. Now Commander Alvin does boast a pretty impressive power and a pretty impressive speed. Her life on the other hand is rather low, and her trait is also immune to death, so this doesn't really help her out in a fire war. Now Commander Alvin is really good at applying DOTs. She comes with an AoE poison and an AoE burning, and she can also remove 20% of stamina from all of the enemy targets. And while these AoE skills are interesting, you kind of want a fire monster to be an attacker. You want the monster to be able to take out the enemy monster in one hit, or possibly take out all of the enemy monsters with an AoE, and Commander Alvin can't really do that. Well, she might be able to do that because one of her most powerful skills is Phantom Gunpowder, which deals 65 damage and it has no cooldown, so you can spam the skill over and over again. Now the downside to this skill is that it's fire based, so you're not going to be able to take out the fire monster in one hit, but you might be able to take out the rarity and the non-fire element monster. And obviously, if you ever find yourself facing a Timerion, and Timerion was to do cooldowns activated, thanks to Phantom Gunpowder, you'd easily be able to take out the enemy Timerion in one hit. Overall though, I can't really recommend Commander Alvin. And next up is Rollbug. Now Rollbug is a pretty interesting monster. It has a high power and it has a high life. The speed isn't necessarily the fastest. His trait, like many fire monsters, is immune to burning, which does help when fighting other fire monsters because you don't want to lose 15% of your life for 3 turns, but overall again it's better to have some sort of immunity to a deny skill. Now as far as skills are concerned, he does have the skill called Crossing the Bridge, which is an AoE bleeding, which can come in handy because no monster is immune to bleeding, and the enemy monsters that do have bleeding will lose 10% of their life for 4 turns and their damage output will be reduced for 4 turns. But now let's take a look at other skills. He has Enter the Mines and Mount Doom's Ward. As you can see, Enter the Mines deals 50 damage, while Mount Doom's Ward deals only only 35 damage. Now Mount Doom's Ward does give him a 30% shield, while Enter the Mines gives him a 20% shield. So Rollbug is interesting because he's meant to be kind of tanky. He comes with skills that can give himself shields, but they're kind of weak skills, and he does have AoE bleeding, which will make the enemy's damage output reduced. So overall, Rollbug can best be categorized as a tanky monster, and when we're looking at fire monsters, we really don't need a tanky monster. It's nice that this is something new to fire monsters. Rollbug is a monster that can take a lot of hits, but once again, that's not really what we're after. So Rollbug, although you're interesting, I really can't recommend purchasing this monster. So next up is Drycan Tiem. And of all of the available fire monsters that you can purchase, I'd probably have to say this is the one I would go with. He does boast the nice impressive power of 3,575. His other stats, life and speed, aren't anything too amazing. Once again, his trait is immune to burning, so nothing amazing. It does help against fire monsters. What I like best about this monster is that he comes with a single stun skill, and it's a no cooldown, so you can use this skill as many times as you need to. Now I tend to mention this a lot with attackers. Attackers are normally the kind of monsters that can one hit the enemy monster, so you don't really need DOTs, effects, or something like stun, a deny skill. But it never hurts to have a stun skill just in case you can't finish off the enemy monster in one hit. Because if you can immobilize the enemy fire monster or the enemy non-fire monster from attacking you, that can help you secure the game and get 3 coins. On top of that, Drycan Tiem does come with a special base 60 damage skill that has a 1 turn cooldown, so as you can imagine, you can easily stun the fire monster and on the next turn, finish him off with your 60 damage special based attack. And like many fire monsters, he also comes with an AoE burning, as well as this skill that can give him double damage. Likewise, in many team wars, you'll be able to use this skill to take out the enemy rarity monster, and on the following turn take out the enemy fire monster or the enemy non-fire monster, thanks to the fact that you have double damage. So once again, of all the fire monsters available to purchase right now, this is the one I would most recommend. However, I'm not saying he's the best, especially because there are plenty of better fire monsters than him. They're just not available on sale right now. But anyways, now we can move on to the last available monster, Tephra. Now in my opinion, Tephra can best be classified as an attacker, even though it does have a pretty tanky life of 33,477, and it does have a really low speed of 3,091. And the reason I say Tephra as an attacker is thanks to Lava Mist. This skill makes all of the enemies very weak against fire attacks, which means your fire attacks will be dealing 80% more damage than they normally would. And on top of that, Tephra does have Lava Fall, which deals moderate fire damage to all enemies. Here, moderate damage meaning 45 damage. So in a team wars, if you're able to Lava Mist and then Lava Fall, that's pretty much going to wipe out all of the enemy monsters. And then if you ever find yourself in a situation where you just want to one-hit an enemy monster, you do have Magma Avalanche, which deals 75 damage and it only has a 1 turn cooldown. Now once again, unfortunately, you probably won't be able to one-hit the enemy fire monster, just due to the fact that fire skills aren't effective against fire monsters, but you would be able to easily one-hit the rarity monster or the non-fire monster. So if you really wanted to make your own pack of 3 monsters and you wanted Tephra, this is another good choice. However, overall, there's way better fire monsters available. So if you really wanted to get your hands on a fire, water, and epic monster, I'd probably have to say this is one of your better packs, Drycan Tiem, Frostbite, and Cthulhu, or Drycan Tiem, Cabinfish, and Cthulhu, but that's if you really wanted to purchase all 3 monsters. Honestly, it might be way better just to purchase a Cabinfish for 249 gems, or just to purchase an individual Frostbite also for 249 gems, or just get both of them. And with that being said, that is going to be concluding this video. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys thought about it, and also be sure to let me know what monsters you're going to be purchasing in this Create Your Own Pack event. And like always, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.